Reports are emerging of another fatal incident near a distribution centre in Gaza. A spokesman for the Hamas-run civil defence agency says Israeli troops killed 27 people, including a woman, about a kilometre away from the site in the southern part of the Strip. Israel Defence Forces have released a statement saying their troops identified several suspects moving toward them, deviating from designated access routes. It says it fired warning shots, and after the suspects failed to retreat, additional shots were directed near a few individuals advancing towards the troops. The IDF says it's aware of reports regarding casualties and it's looking into that. It says it's not preventing civilians from accessing aid sites. Our Middle East correspondent Barbara Platt-Usher is in Jerusalem and gave us the latest.
This is the second time in 3 days that a lot of Palestinians, dozens of Palestinians, have been killed while trying to get aid from this new distribution system that has set up hubs in southern Gaza. So just to set the scene, this is the Palestinians gather about a kilometre away quite early in the morning until they're allowed to move forward to the hubs. And they have to pass through territory that is controlled by the Israeli military, because the Israeli military is securing these aid hubs. So with the UN, the aid is brought to their homes or brought to their communities. This is a different system, and it means that civilians are put in quite close proximity to Israeli soldiers for this period while they're getting to the aid hub. And I think that's the context for what we've been seeing in the last couple of days. So what we're hearing is that 24 Palestinians were killed as they were gathering to head towards the aid site. We don't have details yet on the circumstances of why that happened. We do have a report from the Israeli army that said it did fire at a number of people, suspects it calls them, that left the designated route and didn't pay attention to warning shots, but it does not have an answer for the number of casualties that we're seeing at the hospital where the bodies and dead are being brought. So it says it's checking into those reports.
And this then is adding to the criticism of how this new style of aid delivery is operating.
Yes, so the idea of this new aid system, according to the Israelis, is that you needed to have secure hubs for the aid to be distributed by a private company that essentially sidelines the UN. But its argument is that Hamas has been stealing aid, and so therefore you need to have a secure spot where Palestinians will be able to get the aid. I have to say they haven't really provided proof that this is happening in any large way, and UN officials have consistently said it's really armed criminal gangs that is stealing aid, that is looting the aid, not Hamas. But this is the rationale that the Israelis give. So it means that the Palestinians have to walk to these aid hubs to get their food. Like I said, normally under the UN system, the food was brought to their communities. There aren't that many of these hubs, so they have to walk a long way. They have to wait at these junctions before they're allowed to move towards the sites. And as I mentioned, they go through these areas where the Israeli military, it's a military zone, basically. So that is a big part of the difference between this system and the other. Another one is that there doesn't seem to be organized distribution. So for pictures we've seen, the accounts we've heard from many people is that the boxes of food, and millions of meals are being distributed, but the foundation says, but the boxes of food are kind of piled in these aid distribution centers, and people sort of run to get there because it's first come, first serve. And that also adds to the chaos. And the other criticism, which has been from the beginning, before they even started operating, is that the UN says if you're demanding that Palestinians go to a particular place to get aid, it could amount to something like forced displacement, because they have to come from different parts of the Gaza Strip to the south, which is where the aid distribution centers are set up. The organization that is running these centers says it's planning to build more, and we'll see what happens in the coming days. But the model is very, very different from the UN and frankly from the international humanitarian model, something that a senior UN official has called a wildly unhumanitarian way of doing things.
Barbara Platt-Usher in Jerusalem, while BBC Verify's Merlin Thomas has been looking at the reports, and we can join her now.
At BBC Verify, we're piecing together what exactly happened. Now, we know that there are allegations of killings of Palestinians on the route to the distribution site this morning, and these are similar to the allegations that we saw from early Sunday morning as well. Now, witnesses described Israeli fire on Palestinians who were on their way to try and access aid at this one distribution site in southern Gaza. Doctors at local hospitals have described treating gunshot wounds. Now, the descriptions are similar from both Sunday morning and this morning in terms of what they're treating. And local health officials, including the Hamas-run Civil Defense Agency, have said multiple Palestinians have been killed, with many more injured. Now, the Israeli army have said they fired warning shots on suspects who they say deviated from the agreed route approximately half a kilometre from the site, and then they said they fired additional shots. Now, there is one aid distribution site run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation that was open over the past few days, and it's one of 4 that was set up in the Strip. But there's clear confusion over how Palestinians on the ground can access aid. And we've seen chaotic scenes of people trying to access aid rushing towards the site. Now, we've asked the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation and the Israeli army for comment on this, and we'll continue to investigate this at BBC Verify.